So welcome, everyone. You know, every fourth Sunday, Joey Stuckey is back here on Big Blend Radio. And today we're really going to have a good rant rave and we're going to rock because Joey has a friend joining us, Mark Storey, over in England with a fantastic new album out that you've got to go get it. It's on everything like Spotify, but it is called Dark Voodoo Magic. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And we're going to have all the links in the episode notes for you where you can find it. It's on Spotify. You can find him on YouTube, on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and all kinds of places. So just check those links out in the episode notes. But first off, Joey, how are you doing?
I'm well, my friend. It's always a pleasure to be with you. And I'm so excited to bring Mark into the picture because he is a dear friend of mine, one of my dearest friends, and so talented. And this record is exciting, as you know. It's a great joy to get a chance to chat about it and get some behind the scenes conversation going on.
I am so stoked about this album. Like, as soon as I remember you sent me, I think it was the first single that was being released at the time.
Yeah, but
holy crap, man. This is cool. This is badass. This is, this is badass dark voodoo magic, right? With a little bohemian goodness in there too, right? So Mark, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you inviting me on your show. Thank you so much.
You know, when Joey says he wants to bring a musician on, I already know it's going to be good because he only hangs out with the best, really, you know? That's why he hangs out with Nancy and I. I'm just kidding.
That's right. I'm very picky about my company.
He is. But yeah, it was Bohemian Moonshine that I first heard.
Yeah.
That was the one. And it's still like the slide. Did you do the guitar work on this? The slide on there? And just that.
Played every single instrument and sung every vocal on that album.
Okay, you do belong on this show because you're nuts. We like that. We like that. Joey, I mean, you're, not only an incredible musician, you are the ambassador of music for Macon, Georgia, where your recording studio is based. And as you all know, Macon is the capital of Southern rock. So tell me, let's back up a little bit, Joey, because I know when you listen to this, I know that you had the same vibes as me. This is really super good. But number one, we wouldn't think it'd be coming from over in, the other side over the pond. But how did you first connect with Mark? Let's get some gossip going first.
Well, it was a dark and stormy night. I had nothing but a raincoat on. And I met actually on a podcast. And so, I don't know, man, you just know good people when you meet them. And Mark and I became dear friends. And I actually got a chance to, he actually really saved my neck because one of the things that's really hard when you're touring abroad, especially you're traveling across the pond, is carrying your guitar overseas. It's a real burden and it's just a real difficult thing to do. And then the customs people have lots of questions for you. And then you've got this extra piece of luggage. And I carry all my instruments in flight cases so they can be put in the belly of the plane, which makes them very awkward to bring with you. The flight cases are rectangles and they're heavy, even though they have wheels on them. They're just really hard to maneuver. And so Mark actually was kind enough, a good enough friend to let me borrow his Martin guitar while I was on tour in the UK. So I didn't have to bring my own. And that was another thing. But one of the things that's so cool is I got a chance to hear a lot of this stuff in the early stages. And because I got a chance to listen to the early mixes and listen to some of the early songwriting drafts. And I got a chance to really hear it. And what you will be absolutely blown away to know is that Mark did not start his life off as a slide guitar player. It's something that just kind of came to him. He sort of tried it. Mark, you correct me if I'm wrong here, but you sort of tried it as a whim and found out that it was something you just took to really, really quickly. And I have to tell you, as a professional musician that makes a living doing nothing but music, I do not naturally take the slide. I don't know if it's because I can't see it. It takes my hand too out of touch with the strings, or if I'm just not good at it, whatever. But admittedly, I've only spent about half an hour trying to play it, but it's just something I didn't take to it. And Mark took to it like a duck to water. And you had never played slide before you started working on this album, if I remember correctly.
That's correct. I mean, I did a cover of the song Fever by, the song Spoonful by Howlin' Wolf. And during the process of recording it, I thought it would be a good idea to mix it up with Fever by Peggy Lee. It works really well. So I called it A Spoonful of Fever. I did a mix. I was still doing the early album tracks then, but I did a mix of it. And there was something that was like not quite, something was missing. And I had a good think, and I don't know why I thought about adding slide guitar to it. I really don't know. I can't remember where it came from, but I thought I'll give it a go because it's a swampy track. And I got on YouTube and had a quick check up on how to do it, and it just flowed. So I played. If you watch the video of A Spoonful of Fever on YouTube, that is the first time I'd ever really played slide guitar.
It's incredible because slide guitar is one of those things that either sounds really good or really bad. And it's like,
yeah, if it sounds bad, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things that Mark does to perfection. Now, I have recorded a lot of bands and I've recorded a lot of slide guitar players, and his tone and his intonation is so good. It was just really impressive. And I want to say, he says he plays all the instruments, which is absolutely true, but he's playing multiple guitars, electric guitars, acoustic guitars, slide guitar, harmonica, all the vocals, all the drum programming, and all done at home.
Wow.
In a small home studio, and all that. We were the Shadow Sound Studio team, which is my studio, was honored to master the project for him. But outside of that, no one has touched this thing but him. It's all comes from his genius, and it really is impressive. This is the kind of stuff that you can do, at home, and the only real limitation that he had at home was that he couldn't do a live drum kit, but it didn't need it, and it works perfectly well with the programmed drums, and they're good enough samples and stuff like that. So live drums is really hard to do in a home studio, but he's really impressive with what he got done, and all the vocals are fantastic, and the harmonica. It's just everything fell into place like it should, and it was a really fun journey getting a chance to see it come together from start to finish.
Well, it does sound like you're in a band, and
it does.
I think it is simplicity and keeping it honest and true. There's a couple things listening to it for me. I just love it when Mark, you went all in. The fact that you did all the instruments and everything, and the singing, the writing, all of this stuff, it is about going all in. It's like when you commit to a project and you really commit, like a comedian has to do on stage. Even if they bomb, they have to commit to their bombing. It's exactly it, but you didn't bomb. And it's just such a I really love it when people just let the song be it and have the emotion and the dirt and the grit. You can't do that kind of music without having that I have to watch my language. Suddenly something wanted to fly out. You just have to be completely, just let it go, let it rip. You know what I mean? Just absolutely let it be what it's supposed to be, and don't over frillify it, And that's when you get into the blues and the swampy and just that kind of rock sound as well, that you have all of it in there. It's a nice swampy stew, but it's not over. You don't have too many ingredients in the stew. So it's just gets right to the core of a human being, because you are tapping your foot. And that's why your slide is so damn good, is you're going to the tap of a foot to exactly like how you would just, I'd explain this in words, but there's old school slide done by a band called Tarbox Ramblers. And I found this album in probably 98, 99 in a library in Julian, California, in the mountains of San Diego. And I think there were 1 or 2 piece, maybe 3, and they come out of North Carolina. And I had no idea about any of this stuff. I was still new to this country, didn't know anything, just really dumb on Southern rock or anything to do with total swampiness. And that was anybody that picked up that album in the library in that little mountain town became addicted to these guys, because it's like you're sitting in a room with them and they're just playing it and being completely honest. And that's what your music is. It's completely honest. And in the harp, the harp on that, I want my buddy Johnny Mastro and you to get together, because you guys would just blow the roof off of juke joints all across the country. Not that there's many left though, but you know what I mean? So Johnny, would you say that about the honesty? You know what I mean? Where it's just, you just don't clutter it.
Because Mark is really good about one of the things that I admire so much as him as an artist, let alone a stellar human being. But one of the things that I admire the most is he's really thoughtful and really, works at making sure he has the right ingredients. I should say, if I remember correctly, there are actually a few percussion instruments that he does play live, like tambourines and shakers and things. I really misspoke when I said it was all drum programming. Now that I remember back, but I do love the honesty. And Mark, I've been meaning to ask you this question. We have chats, once a week, and stay in good touch because we're, like I said, best of friends. He's my brother, and I love him dearly. But I was asking, like, your influences are wide and varied, but this album has a real sense of cohesion. All comes from the same vibe. And what were your influences when you were writing this stuff? Like, who were you listening to? What was going on? Because I love the sense that it has such a nice sense of cohesion. All the songs sound like they belong together.
Well, just getting back to the slide for a second, it was actually the inclusion of the slide that made everything come together for me. Because up until that point, I was writing, but I didn't have a particular identity, or I didn't have a sound. I was looking for a sound. The slide guitar, it was like the Glenn Miller moment when he changed his brass section round because I think the trumpet player split his lip and he had to rearrange it, and he got his Glenn Miller sound. And I was just very fortunate that I started playing slide, and it all brought it together. But over the years, I mean, my main influence is the original Alice Cooper group. I was 15 when I saw them do Schools Out, 14 or 15. They appeared on this UK TV program. I'd never heard of them. I don't think many people in England had. And they just lit my world up. All of a sudden, everything made sense. And through my involvement with getting into the Alice Cooper group, and I was always very much into finding bands that were not obvious, the obvious bands that everyone else listened to. I tried to listen to different stuff. And by getting into Alice Cooper, eventually I started getting towards things like Iggy and the Stooges, the MC5, early Ted Nugent stuff, which at the time I didn't realise was all one big Detroit rock and roll sound. So my main influence is that classic Detroit rock and roll sound. Then I discovered Johnny Winter. I saw him. Yeah. And Johnny Winter doing Jumpin' Jack Flash, and that was another wow. So that steered me in the direction of blues, and it kind of went on from there. So my influences are like very kind of dark and like Chicago blues, that kind of dark blues, sort of mixed with the Detroit rock sound is my kind of launch pad, and then whatever comes out from that hopefully sounds like me.
Yeah. No, it totally does. It's really fun. It's so fun to talk about influences, because if you ask me my influences, I sound nothing like my influences, and yet they're an integral part of who I am as an artist. I think that's the same with you. And did you listen to much slide prior to starting to play it?
No, not really. I mean, I listened to. You get to hear it, obviously, especially when you listen to people like Johnny Winter and Rory Gallagher.
Oh, God, I love Rory. Are you kidding me? He's like one of the best, most important people on the planet. He is. Sorry.
Gallagher was possibly the most honest to God musician on the circuit,
and good to musicians.
A long career. He just kept it real. He never dressed up. And I mean, Johnny Winter went through a phase when he was wearing like jumpsuits and things, which looked a bit weird. But Gallagher always stuck with the check shirt and the jeans. He was always very humble. He just lived for music. And when he passed away, I was really deeply upset, because he was such a major influence on me with his playing and his attitude as well. His attitude was great because he didn't walk around like I don't like the rock star thing. I don't appreciate it at all. I understand it's what makes rock and roll tick. But from my personal point of view, I like people that are real, down to earth, not humble, but you know what I mean? They're real.
Yeah, well, your music's real. I think that comes through in you, that you're very genuine, and that's why your music is so good. It's real.
I've lived quite an interesting life. I mean, I think most people have. I always believe we're all on our own little journeys. And I've got a lot of things that happened to me in my life that I can draw on. And one of the most important things to me when writing, it's all very well and good getting a great piece of music together and getting it, really, really, really top notch. But it can fall down on the lyrics. And I spend a long time writing my lyrics. I tend to find the vocal melody first, and then the words tend to fill the gaps, and that gives me the direction the song's going to go in lyrically, and it just goes from there. I just treat every song I write as a kind of a little separate journey and think, where's this going to take me? how's this going to turn out in the end? You know, and that's what I did with every track on the album, every single track. You know,
one of the things that's so interesting is one of your guitars that you got helped inspire one of the songs, and that was a really interesting thing and it's one of my personal favorite tracks, as you know, because I was like, this needs to be near the front of the album. Tell me about that.
Right. A couple of Christmases ago, I can't remember exactly, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, my stepchildren bought me a Christmas present. And when I opened it up, it was a guitar by a company called Bohemian. And it was an oil can with a neck. You know, it's just like any guitar. And it was called a Bohemian oil can guitar. And I'll be honest with you, when I first saw it, I thought, what the hell is this? Until I plugged it in. And I fell in love with it. I mean, it's fantastic. The slide, it's fantastic for anything. I mean, they're great guitars. They're very underrated. And a little bit further on down the line, I saw an advert for a few Bohemian guitars, and one of them was called the Bohemian Moonshine. And I thought it looked great. It was the oil can one's basically red and white, but the Moonshine is grey. It's like a kind of a bluey grey. And I thought, yeah, it wasn't over expensive. I picked it up. It turned up. I plugged it in, and I tuned it to open G and just started playing slide on it. And that's when the riff came up for Bohemian Moonshine. I was just jamming around. I come up with that initial riff, and I thought, right, yeah, I can do some of this piece of music. Yeah, I can definitely develop this. What am I going to call it? And I'm looking at the guitar, and I'm thinking, the title's right there. It's on the guitar. The title's right there. So how do you write a set of lyrics like with a title like Bohemian Moonshine? And I thought, well, I could go for the obvious thing and make it about the guitar. But if I am a bit careful with the lyrics, I can make it sound like I'm singing to my partner. So if you listen to the lyrics, most of the lyrics in there are things like run my fingers up your neck and slide, pull your body close to mine. I love you.
Here we go.
So that's where it came from. And it's what I call a double entendre song, in the fact that it can be taken both ways. It can either be about the guitar or it can be about falling in love.
I think it's so clever. I just really I love the tune, and I think it's so cleverly written. And I think that tone that you got on that slide was a real pivotal moment, because I don't remember where this was in your writing process, but it seemed to really be a place where things started to gel, and that signature tone that's on the album started to come about, if I remember correctly, and maybe I don't. But
the Bohemian Moonshine, the song, came fairly quickly after the Spoonful of Fever thing. Now, I put a lot of work into the slide. Well, I say a lot of work. I mean, I jammed it a lot, and I found it was just singing to me. You know, I was very fortunate, really fortunate, in the fact that I was feeling half the time I'm being guided by something or someone somewhere, because I don't know where it comes from. But I wrote that song shortly after Spoonful of Fever, and basically once I got that song out of the way, the floodgates opened, and I came up with Gimme Strength and Dark Voodoo Magic and all that stuff. And the only thing I had to do was not overplay the slide guitar, because I got so into it. You know, I didn't want it to be everything.
Right.
So it came about, I think it was about 6 songs in, Joey, if I remember rightly. I had about 4 or 5 songs already done, and then everything made sense. Once I got that guitar plugged in, it was that's why I tend to use it in most of my pictures, because I love all my guitars, but that's the one that's got a special place in my heart, because it helped me out so much, you know, with what I was trying to do.
Go ahead, Lisa.
I ask about the guitar, because what's so cool about that is that these are actual real guitars that have been around in history, you know, and used. But it reminds me of, well, it's like, I think it's going to be somehow connected historically to national guitars, you know, and it just depends on where you are, when, and how, right? And I also remember guitars being made out of cigar boxes.
Yeah.
And that, I don't know what they would sound like on slide, but it makes sense. And it's, again, that simplicity of it, and taking something and really, that's so beautiful, man. It's just because I'm now thinking about all these different guitars, and then when you think back to the blues, and, you know, going back to Africa and stuff, like the banjos. Now, banjos can be, you know, they can be played out like that too. They can get some crazy stuff out of a banjo that, you know. just like, wow, that's not finger picking, you know, that way. And in Africa, we had all these different instruments that were like slide was, it's a whole other language and vibe, but just all kinds of instruments. I have no clue what their names are, but if you had a piece of wood and you had some like catgut or something like that, you've got a guitar in some form. And it happens. I don't care what it is. You just, that's what happened out there. So it kind of reminds me of my history of out there and just seeing and playing those different instruments. And you could do whatever you wanted. And they'd even make a slide sound just by tuning, you know, as well. Not just playing it, but like playing in a slide. It would be done like they would tune it as like, I don't know how to explain it, but they would use the pegs to do the sliding.
Yeah, I got you. You can tune it up and down while you're playing, which is really hard to do. Every time I hear Iron Man, I think, how did he tune down so perfectly from Black Sabbath? That's that intro. It's really hard to do. At least it is for me. I'm not good at that. But I was going to say, it's interesting. I usually get a new guitar every year for Christmas or something. Technically, it's a business expense. So keep the musicians out there. Don't forget to write your guitars off as a business expense. But it is interesting how a new guitar will just fire your mind in different directions based on its attributes, how it feels and how it sounds, and it really can give you a great dose of inspiration for writing. But what I was going to say about Mark, which I think is really interesting, and I'm a blind person talking about this, so give me grace, but he is such a genius visually. He did his own album cover. I should mention that he didn't just play all the instruments, but he designed the album cover as well, and that's a lot of things that a lot of artists can't do. Oftentimes there's somebody else involved with the cover art, and sometimes the labels get involved and all this stuff. But I can't do my own cover art. I made the mistake of trying it one time. I didn't do the actual physical design of it, but I had the idea of the cover. And I can honestly say it was absolute garbage. It was the worst cover ever. Somebody should have stopped me. But anyway, Mark is such a brilliant visual person as well, and comes up with all these really cool videos. And he just described to me his video that's out right now, and described it shot by shot. And it's absolutely brilliant, and it's really interesting. And the thing that's so cool is, you know, he's a storyteller, not only audibly but visually as well. So if you can see, you got the double whammy there. You got extra mojo to enjoy. And it's really interesting. And I was just going to say to not talk shot by shot, but we should talk about the video that's out now and let people get excited to check that out.
Yeah. So this gets back to what I was saying earlier about, like, I don't know where this stuff comes from and so on and so forth. Now, many, many years ago, I worked for 17 years in a black and white photographic lab, and I learned all about photography and printing and developing. That really aided me for when I'm lighting myself in my videos. The fact that my stepchildren bought me an oil can guitar, I would never have bought an oil can guitar. They bought me that oil can guitar, and a spark went off in my head. So that's what I meant, is that you get all these different influences from different people and different things in your life, which, you know, it's not like I just sat down and thought, right, I'm going to grow a really long red beard, get a square-shaped guitar, and put myself as a... It wasn't something I planned. It just materialized. It just ended up coming that way. And the strangest thing is that I put a video up a little while back of the unboxing of the CDs, and so many people went, "I didn't realize you were from England. They thought I was from America." And I'm like, no, I'm from London. And they couldn't believe it. But yeah, I mean, the video, I did the album launch. I mean, Joey will tell you, I was dreading finishing that album and having to get into the realms of getting a distributor, putting it on spot, all that stuff. That stuff leaves me cold, but I got it done. And I did an event on Facebook, and I thought, well, I'm not having a party, so what can I do for this event that will make it special? And I thought, well, the title track's 6.5 minutes long, and it's got a real good atmosphere about it. I wonder if I can actually put together a video for the whole song. And it took me about 3 weeks. Computer program I was using kept crashing because I was putting so many effects on it, and so I had to do it in sections. So the whole intro section, which is one part of it, and then I'd get so far on it and I'd save it in high quality, and then I'd use that as my template to carry it going. It took me a while to do it, but it clocked in at 6.5 minutes, and then I had the bright idea to add the words "to be continued." And there's another piece of slide work I'm working on at the moment, which I had a very rough recording of, but it was good enough. And I put that at the end of the video with the lyrics coming up and then all the credits. But it's I wanted to create a kind of a mini voodoo western. Fortunately, I put my imagination to work with AI, and I formed a really great relationship with AI. We were on first name terms by the end of it. You know? Like, I was like, imagine a picture of a cowboy sitting on a horse with a skull face and a guitar across his back, with flames licking around the horse's feet. Now, we were getting on really famously by then. AI come back to me and go, "What a fantastic visual! I swear to God, would you like me to put people burning in the background?" Yeah, go on. I mean, and I got all these images, and then I just put them all together. And I'm really proud of that video. And it's I posted it on the event page on the day of the release. So the album came out on Halloween, and it was obviously on Spotify first thing in the morning. But the actual event kicked off at 7 o'clock, and that's when I posted the video. And it's really gone down well. I mean, I was surprised because it's a long video, and people's attention span these days is not that great, you know. Am I right? Yeah.
Yeah, preach.
I'm absolutely gobsmacked at the feedback I've got for that. Not just for the album, but for the video. It's really blown me away, you know?
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
I love that you're a storyteller at heart. I mean, you're doing it through music, but you can do it through visuals too, which is really cool. I mean, that's the great thing about this whole album is it's a great story album. There's lots of great musical things happening with the slide, the harmonica, and the vocals and all this stuff, but it's every song's a good story. And that's great that Mark, at his essence, I think, is a storyteller and is able to do it in multiple mediums, which I find really exciting.
Yeah, I mean, what I do is when I listen to, like, when I've got an idea together, I mean, try and listen to it as though I wasn't me, if that makes sense. I'll put the track on. I think, right, you're not you. You've just heard this song for the first time, which is a bit tricky, but what do you think of it? And I listen to it as if it was another artist playing the song to me. And at that point, I'll go, well, I'd probably drop that bit out there and maybe put that in there. I'll put a little intro there and stuff like that. But I think most important thing with writing a song is knowing when to leave gaps, knowing when not to overplay, and giving it like highs and lows and peaks and troughs. So all the tracks on the album, in essence, take you on an up and down roller coaster ride, you know? So you got like the Bohemian Moonshine song kicking it off, then it goes into Again and Again, which is a full on rock song. And it just goes on from there and there. And I ran the set list part. I mean, Joey has been absolutely fantastic with this. I mean, he listened to my mixes, and he was like, you know, he said, "Yeah, you've done a really good job, but what I would suggest is this, or what I would suggest is that." I mean, he can hear things that I don't even think dogs can hear. Do you know what I mean?
Joey, it's Joey.
Superpower. Yeah, he's got superpower hearing. It's like incredible. Speak up, old boy.
Woof.
I sent him a mix, and then he'd say, "Right, I'm going to have a listen to that when I want to give it, you know, plenty of time. I want to sit down and listen to it." And he'd come back to me and he'd say, "Right, your hi-hat's a bit high. I'd bring that." He just offer these suggestions. And
That's cool.
do you know what? It made all the difference. I mean, seriously, I thought the mix was good. I played it to my partner. You know, she go, yeah. You know, she points me in the right direction on things. She's not afraid to say if something's not working. You know, if I play someone a song, I don't want them to go, "Oh, you're amazing." I want them to go, "Yeah, it's good," you know, blah, 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 or "Don't think it's as good as you could do. I don't think your vocal delivery is right in that part there." But Joey pointed out these things, and when I applied them to the mix, straight away it was a better song, you know. When he mastered it, now, up until this point, they were my babies. Those 10 songs, I'd given birth to them. They were painful births, you know what I'm saying?
I do understand that. I feel the same way.
Yeah, no gas in there, straight out, you know. So I, you know, just needed that extra set of ears, and it made all the difference. But when I finally, obviously, I had to get the album mastered, and that's something I can't do. So I said, "Look, will you master my album for me? You know, you're the one person that I would trust because he knows my material and he knows me as a person." But sending him them files was like sending your children to the other side of the country, to another planet. You know, it's like, oh my God, what are they going to come back sounding like? He sent me the file. I put them onto my tablet, I put my headphones on, and it was like listening to a new album. I mean,
That's awesome.
Absolutely incredible. The bass was just more punchy. The highs were just, everything was just spot on. And I did listen to the old mixes a little while back because I had them on MP3. And just the difference between the MP3s that I originally had, the mixes I did, and then the WAV files once Joey had mastered them, was it just made it such a massive difference to the whole sound. So yeah,
it was an honor and privilege to do that. And I really, because I really believe in Mark's music, and I want the world to know about it, which is why we wanted to bring him on the show, because Lisa's such a great supporter of talent as well. And we just love seeing great people and have great things happen for them. And this record's really something special to be proud of.
I'm telling you, I got like 10 albums this year that just, it's like Christmas, when you hear good music like this. It's Christmas. And you're definitely on the 10 album. I mean, the, list of 2025 of the top 10, like just hearing it. And, I listen to all kinds of music, and that just, you got me, like, and I think Joey, you're right about putting, Bohemian Moonshine at the beginning too, because it just gets you. It just sucks you in. It's like walking down the French Quarter and someone just pulled you into it. You're gonna be in trouble that night, man. And that's it. There's a little dirtiness, and it's dirty. And
it's got that swampy feel. It really does.
I love the dirty, man. I do. But it's not like dirty, like gross, it's naughty. Let's put it.
Yeah.
With a little dirt.
Because there is a nice sort of flirtatiousness to it.
Yeah, exactly. And slide is slutty.
Yeah.
It is. It is the most slutty sound that you could get. And when you do it well, I mean, that is just, I think it's amazing when a musician finds like this sweet spot of, and then like you were saying, Mark, earlier, I really appreciate that where you go, it's like when you find you can do something really well and you really dig it and you enjoy it, you want to just do it all over the place. It's like, but then you have to back it up. You have to like go, okay, I got to put the dynamics back in, and you have to go crazy, and then you have to go, okay, now it's time for the editing and being, you have to put that part in there. But it's so cool when something actually just really clicks and it's supposed to be. And I think this happens, in everything in life, for anybody who's with what their passion, and suddenly something happens that is exactly, it wasn't even what you may have thought. And here's this gift, and it truly was a gift that to you, but here's this gift that you were given, and then this whole other door opens. And I love the openness you had about it, because that's why it happened. You know what I mean? In life, we are given gifts, and sometimes we don't realize that we are given a gift. And I'm not talking just about holidays and Christmas and things like that, but it's up to us to look at what we have and go for it 100% to find out where that beauty lies. You know what I mean, Mark?
Yes.
I'm getting all, mind, body, and spirit boo-boo here, but that's too good to not like really say that stuff's true with that. I mean,
well, I'm a totally different musician now than I was when I started, and that's the whole point of it, isn't it?
Oh, that's awesome.
When I wrote Here Be Monsters, which is track 3, that was one of the earliest tracks I wrote. That and The Devil's in the Detail were 2 of the earliest songs I wrote. And Here Be Monsters, when I finished it, I thought, this is the blueprint for every other track. It's all got to be at this level. Well, it went above that. Well, I'm not like going, oh, no, great. But like, I just found that I was like, well, yeah, you achieved that there, but you got to go one better next time. You can't just keep repeating that. And it kind of grew from there. And as I said, the whole thing, not to keep going on about it, but once I found this affinity with slide guitar, it brought the whole thing together. Like, it was almost like all the threads were in the right place. All I had to do was tighten them up, boom, and there it was.
And how long, the slide guitar was the new element that you added, but one of the older elements is your harmonica playing. And how long have you been doing that? Because that's a very distinctive, blues thing as well.
Well, that started with, I hadn't played live for a long, long time. I think I'd stopped, I'd had a family, And I started with the home recording stuff and ended up forming a band called One Night Stand, which was doing the pub and club circuit in the UK and biker rallies. And the thing is with the UK cover circuit is that most of the bands play exactly the same songs. So they'll all do a cover of whatever's popular at the time. And so, I mean, obviously they got different songs as well, but you'll find that there's a common thread running through their songs. And I thought, I don't want to do that. I want to do something that when people hear it, they'll go, I haven't heard this song in ages. Yeah. So I wanted to do like a rhythm and blues thing. And I thought, and all I was doing was singing. I just sang at this point. I mean, I've been playing guitar a few years, but it only really developed in the past, probably since COVID, to be honest with you. I really, really took it seriously. But I was basically a singer, and I thought, well, I'm not just going to stand up on stage and sing. If I'm going to sing in a rhythm and blues band, I better play blues harp, because I've seen some great blues harp players over the years, people like Lou Lewis and Johnny Marrs and people like that. And I really think it's just a really cool instrument. So I bought one. And I think I bought an A harp, and I played along to an A blues and couldn't work out why it was all out of tune. Then I realised that obviously you go 4 steps up. So if you're playing it, you're playing with a D harp, so on and so forth. And I just practiced it, and then we played gigs, and I was using it live, and that was probably around about 2016. And fortunately, I could then use it when I started writing the album, because I could play blues harp. So. But yeah, it started when I was gigging with this band. And I had a few teething mistakes to start with and stuff like that, as you do. But eventually I got the hang of it. I mean, I'm not at the level of someone like Charlie Musselwhite. If you check out some of Rory Gallagher's later live shows, he has a harmonica player on stage with him who used to play in a band called 9 Below Zero, who are a Brit rock band. The guy's name's Mark Feltham. He is absolutely. I mean, if you like Rory Gallagher, you've probably seen him. He's absolutely incredible. And I'm a kind of. I think my harp playing is adequate. I try and get better at everything I do. But when you look at people like that, they are absolute masters of the instrument, absolute masters. But when you're playing everything, you can't be a master of all of them. So you've got to use the tools you've got in order to put a song together. And that's what I do. I use what tools I play harp and guitar and slide, and I use, I think, what am I going to use for that solo, or what am I going to use for the rhythm section here? Is it going to be acoustic song? Is it going to be an electric song? And all these things fly around in my head, and we'll be sitting watching a movie, and my foot will be tapping, and my missus will go to me, "You're listening to a song in your head again, aren't you?" And I go, "Yeah, I'm just trying to work out this." But yeah, no, I love playing blues harp.
Well, your tone is so good, and that's one of the things that I think is a nice little piece of ear candy on the record, is this beautifully toned harmonica. And not only that, it's as everything you've done, all the pieces fit. There's no overplaying, so it comes in where it's needed and says what it needs to say, and then moves on. So that's real important. I mean, you got guys like John Popper from Blues Traveler who are just, saying, play 10 million
Another
notes in
North
2
Carolina.
seconds.
Yeah.
That guy, I mean, that guy's not human. I don't know how but it works for what he does. But, he rarely plays anything. The harp is kind of one of the focuses of the band. So he rarely plays anything.
But it's different. It's so like
radically,
high pitch. It's like a high pitch to me.
Yeah.
I think it's great. I think he was instrumental, when you think about the mid to late 90s, I think it was late 90s.
Yeah.
He changed for that generation, which is mine. I was already in blues and all of that kind of stuff, but didn't know everyone. I knew what I liked, and I didn't quite have but he changed the circuit of what people listened to. He came out with because to me, I know his name's John Popper, but it's a little poppy to me for blues, because I'm like down and dirty. I want swampy, sweaty, stinky. No, you can't be swampy and sweaty without the stink. You must have the stink. And there should be moonshine involved. I'm just going to say, always want the moonshine. He did do something, but it's such a different, but I think that's a great thing, to be so different, to come in with something new sounding. And I thought he was good, but and he still is.
You're right. It's more pop than blues.
It is. He's a
totally
poppy.
Right. Yeah, you're totally right.
John Poppy. But it's that sound, like you're saying. I just think that what Mark's doing is so just straight up authentic, and you didn't overdo things. So your dynamics sits with what you're like seriously the best at. And you put that up front, and the others are giving you these edges and creating the dynamic, the flow. It's, using your tools you know how to use your tools.
That's right. That's a real skill set. I mean, that's one of the hardest things as an artist, and one of the reasons that an artist usually needs a producer, someone that comes in and says, hey, that's not working, or hey, that you need to simplify. But Mark was his own producer, which is really rare for an artist to be able to do that well. And the reason he was able to do that is something I talk about all the time, which is this switch that I can flip in my head that takes me outside the music as a listener, and then I flip the switch again, and I'm inside the music as a producer with all the nuts and bolts. And so you can change your focus. If you've learned the trick of changing your focus, from a musical professional to a listener, then that's how you make good record. That's most artists don't have that ability. They're so involved in their art that they're not really able to take a step back. And that's a key technique of being a producer for a record. And so that's one of the other kind of amazing things is that, not that Mark didn't have some feedback, because he did have some feedback from trusted sources, which is always important, but it's really impressive to be able to not overplay. That is especially this being his debut record, that's a real mistake that often gets made on those early albums. There's often a desire to overplay.
But you also, Joey, is a producer and doing and mastering this, right? I find this really interesting that you do it on the way you did this with Mark. And Mark, we just bring you on the show and we just talk about you, by the way. No, I'm just kidding. but I love this because we interview so many authors and artists. And now if you had a painter, if you went and told a painter what to do, you know where those paintbrushes are going, right?
Every orifice.
Yeah, well, you said it, not me, but I was leading you there. I let you. This is why we're friends. But then, in theater, you're going to have, and in film, you have a producer, director, all of that. And in music, it's and authors. Authors have beta readers who come in and go, well, I don't like this character because of this, And then you get, okay, I've got to take this. I really need this criticism, but you can also, but then it goes from there to the editor who goes, I know this is even the scene. This is what started your book, but it needs to be cut. And we talk about cutting the babies, like the things that you really love have to go out the window. And maybe it'll create another book. Maybe it'll create another song or a new album. Who knows? But sometimes just because you're emotionally attached to it doesn't mean it gets to stay there. And that sucks. And that's the job of a producer, a master. What Joey does is he gets to hear it all and go, this is your gold and this needs to move. It doesn't mean you have to delete it from the rest of your life. And I think that's the hardest part is that moving of things out, the cutting the babies.
I mean, I can tell you that the majority of wasted time in the studio is some musician with their pet 2-second lick that they just want to hear above everything else. And you're like, yeah, but when we do that, it destroys the mix. And I am willing, and Mark is the same way, because he did revisit, if I remember correctly, he did revisit one or two songs after we thought that they were completed. Because he evolved so much with the slide, and he did revisit one or two songs. And that's the thing. If the way I talk about it is from a film perspective, if it doesn't advance the plot, it's got to go. And I have played some really fine guitar licks and riffs in my time as a session player that ended up being cut from the song because it didn't do what it needed to do, even though, I was like, wow, aren't these great guitar parts? But that's another thing about this record is there's no fluff. There's nothing.
That's the beauty of it.
That is a real skill that takes time to develop. And I remember, like I said, and Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you did revisit one or two songs and made a few changes.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know how familiar you are. I mean, Joey, I know you're familiar with the album, so I'm not sure how familiar you are with all the tracks, but there's a ballad at the end called A Moment Then, right? Now, originally, I wrote that song about 7 years ago, and it was a full throttle rocker. Yeah, a bluesy rocker. It started off with the chant, and it kicked into this blues rocker. And I liked it, but something, as like Joey says, you've got to be able to step outside of what you've created and look on it as though you haven't, and listen to it with, so you're not getting carried away with your performance. You're listening to the audio quality of what you're putting out as a song. And you've got to be able to step back from that and look at and listen to it with completely like honest ears. So I had a moment of zen sitting in my files to be possibly recorded for the album, and I came up with the idea for the main guitar part for a moment of zen that's on the album, which is the drop D acoustic picking. And I was thinking, right, what lyrics I'm going to write for this song? And the opening line had to be the opening line from the original Moment of Zen. It just worked for me 100%. And I thought, okay, once I use this line, that song is now redundant. I can't ever use that again. It's gone, And I wrote the lyrics for A Moment of Zen, and I produced the track. And then I thought, well, why don't you revamp the original music and give it a bit more power? So what I did was I went to work on what was originally the original A Moment of Zen. I obviously I wrote it 7 years ago, so I had a few more little tricks I could use and a better idea of writing material. And that track became track 2 on the album, which is Again and Again. Again and Again was originally called A Moment of Zen. You go back into your thing, right, okay, right, I'll use those lyrics from that one. And that's what I did, so I got 2 songs for the price of one,
I understand that a lot. I have a song that is completely polar opposite, and it's the same song. It would even be in it both. They sound like they come from 2 different countries, and I don't know which one I prefer. I don't. And it's just, so what? Today I feel like this way, And I think that's okay, because it is a second song, and it's almost like, I don't know. I think you're allowed to do stuff when you're a creator in things. And, if you want to get 2 songs out of one, I think you should, I think that's how side A and B happened, is that it was, I think a lot of times that happens with musicians where that nugget, there's a nugget in there, but we can't quite use the nugget in that song. Well, let's explore the nugget, and then you got a double nugget.
I'm really glad I did it, because I think every album needs a ballad. I think it doesn't have to be a real syrupy, like, over the top gush kind of ballad.
Well, you want women to buy your music too,
Yeah,
that's so old school. And I just said that was terrible. Isn't that, Joey, is that bad? That was bad. But that's what used to happen.
You got a fever. We'll let it go.
No one's going to fire me.
Yeah, they can't.
Well, Nancy can. Nancy can fire me, and she does every day, and I fire her. But yeah, no. But I think it's really cool that you got 2 songs, because why not? If there's that inspiration, and who tells you what you can do anyway? You do it. You just go for it. When I always just say, let it out, man. Let it out. Let the demons out.
Yeah, and I will say, one of the things that I was really excited about with Mark is that he put a lot of thought into the album order. In today's Spotify world, where people may just listen to one song, or you can pick and choose a la carte, what you listen to. There's still a group of us that believe the albums should be listened to as a whole, and you should sit down, and not that the songs can't be enjoyed independently or on their own, because they all stand on their own. But when viewed as a greater part of the whole, you get a very different experience. And, that was another thing that Mark and I really agreed on, was that there should be, thought behind the order of the songs, so that you could sit down and make an experience out of it. And I think that's something that's missing from a lot of modern day records. And I still encourage all my clients to come up with an album order. And in fact, I will not master anything until I have the final album order. Some guys master, I won't say haphazardly, but they master everything, and it doesn't matter what the order is. For me, I require my clients to give me an album order, and hopefully they thought about it. Some people do, some people don't. But that's one of the other things. I think that this album is one of those ones that you can sit down and listen to the whole thing. You can pick your favorite songs and rock out to them or whatever, but you can listen to the whole thing and really have a really fun experience. And Lisa, you and I are roughly from the same generation, and I'm sure, young and sexy. Don't forget,
spring chickens.
Absolutely, and
got our own sexy slide going on.
But you and I remember times when we were 12 and 13 years old, your friends would come over and you would all play full album music. Oh, look what I discovered this week. And you'd play it. And then your friend would say, well, here's the album I discovered this week. And you'd play it. And that experience.
And you'd fight over it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But that experience, that experience, well, whoever's house it was is usually who got to go first. But it usually was at my house. But anyway, that's a really thing about Mark's record is that it really can be experienced in multiple ways. All the songs stand on their own. So they're fine to listen to a la carte. But if you take the time to listen to the whole record in order, you get a really nice experience. And so I love that that's something that he takes seriously.
I am so excited about that because it's all about the flow, right? And it's a journey and it's an experience. When people when they just throw it out there, it's like we talked about this last podcast, Joey. A successful gig is have your set list. And then when you read the room and realize you need to change your set list, do it ASAP to connect with people. And it's to me very difficult to put an album to me. That's a permanent set list. Once it's out and printed as a record and vinyl or CD, once it's there, it's there. But I want to tell you, Mark, I cannot wait because in 1 week from today, we will be on the road driving through South and Southeast Texas into Louisiana. And we will be playing the album Through the Swampy Land and then we go to Georgia from there, more swampy lands. Do you know, this is so cool to listen to this album? I know, going through there. It'll keep me going on my driving journey.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously advantageous to have a home recording studio. I mean, I have an 10 wooden built studio at the end of the garden. It's not massive, but it's big enough.
It's got a he shed.
I've got it's a man cave. A man cave.
I just wanted to say he shed just to see what happened.
One of the advantages of doing home recording as opposed to obviously having to pay out studio time, and not all musicians obviously have home recording, but I'm a big fan of pre-production. I might I've done it. I've recorded songs and like I've just told you about, like A Moment of Zen. Another one was Ain't My Monkey. That was a track I wrote, 9 years ago. And I think pre-production is so important because if you record a song, as I have done, and you think it's great, and then as time goes on, you think, well, that's not so clever, and the guitar sound could be better, and then blah blah blah. You can then use that as your blueprint for doing an even better version of it. So I'm a big fan of pre-production. I learned the hard way by stepping up to a mic to record a demo for many years ago for a band I was in, and I hadn't done my homework. And I just stood at the mic, sang what I thought was right, and it just came back. Everything that came back at me was like, I don't like that. So pre-production is important. I think it's very important to you. It gives you gives the chance the song to breathe, gives the song a chance to breathe. It gives you a chance to get your head around it, and then you could think, well, yeah, that's good. I'll live with that. That's fine. Or I could do that better. The pre-production is essential, I think, in the best you can out of the material you're writing.
Yeah.
I agree with that. And that's one thing that home studios excel at is that pre-production work. And every major artist, that you think of, does that pre-production work at home and kind of gets the rough draft demo and lives with it. And then you see what stuff makes it to the final draft and what doesn't. And then 30 years later, they release the demos so you can see the difference between the finished track and the beginning track because they all need money.
Version.
But it's, that's a really good use of studio time, even if it's in your home studio. Pre-production work's a big deal. It's one of, and it's one of the things that a lot of clients that I work with don't do. And so when they come into the studio, they're not able to maximize that experience because they didn't do their pre-production work. And it's the same thing with recordings. I think that's totally true. And it's a really wise decision and a good thing. And it's great because you're using just to tell you how good Mark really is. And this is important. I think he's using like bare bones studio tools.
Gorgeous.
Yeah. He's really. He's really using bare bones stuff and getting this kind of result means that the person playing it has the right sound, because in the studio world, the better the better player you are, the less work I have to do.
Exactly.
When I'm working with a really young band, they've only been playing a couple of years or whatever, I have to do lots of compression, lots of EQ, lots of editing, lots of fiddling with this and vocal tuning and all these things. And people say that's fixing in the mix, but actually it's editing. It's not mixing, it's editing. Mixing is a whole different thing. And so, a lot of people conflate the two. And so when you got a musician that really has honed their craft, then I can set up a microphone and I don't have to, then I get to the final mix and I don't have to, I balance the volume out and I'm done. I don't have to do anything to it. And so Mark's using tools that are, like I said, just really bare bones and older tech and just getting these incredible sounds. And that is a testament to his talent, but it's also a testament to the pre-production work and the time that he spends, making sure the sounds are right. And like I said, to get all this from a home studio is really impressive. So it really is.
I love it.
Because of the music that I play, it sounds best unpolished, It's supposed to be raw. Now, I don't particularly like anything being too overproduced anyway, not just my stuff, but in general. I like to hear the power. I like to hear the energy. I like to hear the rawness. If there's a slight mistake on there, but everything's cooking, leave it in. It doesn't matter.
It's not AI'd.
Exactly. I mean, there's a track on the Alice Cooper's Killer album called Halo of Flies, and the drummer dropped his stick, and you can hear it audibly on the track.
That's great.
And you hear the drumstick fall down between the stands. It's going clack, 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 clack. And they left it in. And it the song wouldn't be the same without it. It just works. Sometimes the mistakes are great, Yeah, as I said, with pre-production, you'll know this, Joey. Obviously, it costs money to go into a studio, a professional studio like Shadow Sound. It costs money. So you need to have your stuff together. You need to know exactly what you're doing, because the longer you take trying to work this out or work that out, it's costing you more and more and more. So pre-production is essential. But I'm fortunate in the fact, as I said, that the music I do is it's what I do, but it works well with a raw sound, and it works for me. I mean, the equipment I use, give me Logic and I wouldn't know what to do with it. I'll probably work it out in the end, but I just know my equipment back to front. So,
by the way, everyone, Logic the program. He's already got Logic.
Well, I know we're starting to get close on our time, but so I wanted to ask Mark this: what song if you only had one song to share with the listening public, which song would it be, and why does it speak to you so?
Okay, well, I would say "Gimme Strength." "Gimme Strength" was a gift to me. I just went down the studio. I was just playing some slide. I came up with the main riff for it. I thought, well, yeah, that works. That works really well. So I set my phone up, my camera up, my video, to play the riff. And I'm playing the riff, and I listened back to it. I thought, yeah, that sounds really good. And I thought, right, press record and sing the first thing that comes into your head. Right now, lyrics usually take me a while. And the first thing that came into my head was, Lord, give me the strength to try and find my way back home. And I thought, wow, the song wrote itself on the spot. Now, I embellished it, obviously, for the album. I worked on the lyrics. But the reason that I chose that song is because it's about alcoholism. I don't drink, right? I'm not a drinker. I've never really been much of a drinker, but I have known people that are alcoholics. My ex-wife was an alcoholic. My best friend is an alcoholic. And I saw their struggle with it. It's a difficult thing to kick. And I wrote the lyrics from the viewpoint of someone who was desperately, desperately trying to kick the habit that was ruining their life, calling out to God, even though they may not be religious. God, help me, I've got to do this. But then, but with my lips to the bottle, I sink into the bottomless pit. And I'm really proud of that one. It's sort of semi-autobiographical, as is Dark Voodoo Magic, but that's the one that I think really... In fact, I sent it to you, Joey, and I remember the message you sent back to me was like, you was really excited about that song.
It's a great track. And it's interesting because I've said this before, and one time I've been in radio and TV for a million years, and I was interviewing a dear friend of mine, Randall Bramlett. I'm a big fan of his music, and he's played on several of my records and was sweet enough when I was a kid and had more more enthusiasm than skill. And he was always so kind to me. He's been a big mentor and friend. And also was one of the few people that bought me something for our wedding. Most people were buying things for the bride. He was one of the few people that I got something that I wanted. So, but anyway, we were talking about how these songs come when they come fast like that from a single moment of inspiration, how they really withstand the test of time. As you get older, you still tend to like them, and they tend to be one of your strongest stuff. And I think that's really true. I mean, I think that it's really true that the songs that come without so much effort are some of your best works. And those come from a place of inspiration and putting your 10,000 hours in to become a professional. But I was really excited about that track, and it is a great tune. And I love the whole record, so I don't know how you pick, but it really worked out well. And I didn't realize that it was one that came so quick. That makes a lot of sense.
Voodoo Magic was probably, I'm proud of, because there's so much going on in it. Started off as a simple acoustic blues riff and grew into the song it is now. Even now, I don't know where it came from, but I just sat down. I just get lost down the studio.
You're channeling a whole bunch of good stuff. That's what I call it. And that's the thing. That's where that's pure gold, when it just flows through you. And then sometimes some songs will take 5 years to craft, and it'll still be a beauty. That's what happens. It's like you say, when something's a gift, it's a gift, So guys, this is so awesome. I'm excited. I got another good album to listen to, and I can't wait to hear it in this, drive through the swampy land and listen to it. That's the best to me. I love to play music just for that ambiance. It's like, all right, this is good. So I can't wait for that. And everyone, again, all the links for Mark's music, they're in the episode notes. The album is on Spotify and also Bandcamp. And of course, go to Mark Storey on there. And like I said, it's in the episode notes. Also, keep up with Joey and all his work. And if you're a musician out there getting your album together or getting ready to do a release, a CD or a single, go to joeystuckey.com. And always fun. Thank you, Joey. And thanks for bringing Mark, Joey.
Thanks, everybody. I sure appreciate it. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Mark. Right.
I enjoyed it every second. Really enjoyable interview. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This is badass. I'm excited. I'm going to get a speeding ticket. I call it speeding ticket music. Like, there's music where you kind of, get
Just
lost
send Mark
on
the
it.
bill.
I will.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care. Bye.
Let's go.